Hello guys, it's Rhys Thomas. This is the newest episode of, it's the first episode of Media Dump Theater, my own personal podcast. This is just so I can bring my thoughts on certain types of media that I enjoy. And the first episode is going to be for an incredibly obscure Nickelodeon show called Making Fiends. This show was made in 2008, I believe. It's a very charming show. It's kind of the South Park of Nickelodeon, if it's going by me. So let's get into to what makes this show so special. The show's characters and setting. The setting is a small town called Clamberg. A town so bleak and dark, no one can find any reason on why someone would actually choose to live there. Now, this town is under the thumb of an elementary school girl named Vendetta. Vendetta is this terrible little girl who uses these fiends. Fiends are creatures that she makes in a mixing bowl, and they are incredibly terrifying and terrorize every character in the town. Except for this one girl named Charlotte. While Vendetta has everything, she has the entire town under her thumb. She has all the town shops closed. She has basically every teacher under her thumb, and every lunch or restaurant has to serve clams, grape punch, or basically whatever she wants. Until Charlotte came along. Charlotte is brainless. There's no nice way of saying this. Charlotte is an absolute buffoon. She is just nothing but a smiley, happy girl that is raised by her grandma and is forced to do... Well, she isn't forced to do anything. When Vendetta tries to make her stop singing or being happy or just doing whatever Vendetta thinks is annoying, she just laughs and say, "You're such a good friend." And Vendetta finds it incredibly annoying, especially when Charlotte breaks into her house. This is the meat and bones of the show. This is where the comedy is. This is where basically everything comes full circle. And, well, Vendetta has a different viewpoint, while Charlotte has a different viewpoint. Charlotte thinks Vendetta is a nice, kind sweetheart with a giant hamster following her, while Vendetta wants to be feared and respected by everyone in her presence. While there's other characters in the show, they're very minor and are they're just not as interesting as Vendetta or Charlotte. Vendetta is an incredibly entertaining character that is sometimes some of her jokes, I just genuinely wonder why this is a kid's show.
Look, Vendetta gave it to me.
I threw it at you.
Monkey, stay up late.
Why don't you pretend to be dead?
Okay.
That was satisfying. You are much better this way.
But Vendetta, what can I do if a kitty is stranded up high and I want to get it down?
You could shoot it with a water gun. Or you could throw puppies at it until it loses its grip. Or you could do nothing. I am sure that it would get weak with hunger and fall off all by itself. If you lived upon the moon, I'd be happy, for you would be many, many thousands of miles away from me. If you lived upon the moon, you would get sick of gray, and hopefully you jump too high and drift too far away. The moon is full of dust, the moon does not have air. If you fell in a crater, nobody would care. Maybe you'll get hit by a rover, maybe you'd fall in a pit. If there was a meteor shower, perhaps you would get hit. If you lived upon the moon, what fun times I would have. I watch you through my telescope and laugh and laugh and laugh.
It's incredibly fun, and I really enjoy the show. Now, the themes in comedy are kind of a mental illness for the themes. They're all, like, the two main characters, I think they might have a certain amount of mental illnesses. In one of the episodes of Making Fiends, Charlotte thinks that her parents are in outer space while she's raised by her grandma, and her grandma just nods and say, yeah, I think her grandmother might be lying to her, and she's just known all her life that she thinks her parents are out of space, and she hasn't seen them for the rest of her life. Just this amount of being a guardian, this nurturing is incredibly unhealthy, and just Charlotte has probably never understood negative emotions before, unless in a few episodes, while it actually has, they're basically involving things like cats and other cute things that she finds in danger. While Vendetta, she always knows negative emotions. She literally... her parents are shrunken down miniature people that are the size of her hand. Actually, smaller than that. And they just nod and say, okay, that's fine. Even though she just makes a bunch of monsters and just scares every single person into doing whatever she wants. This amount of nurturing is also incredibly unhealthy because this makes Vendetta an incredibly narcissistic villain. Or maybe, why should I say it's a villain? She's a villain because Charlotte is the person always breaking into her house, drowning her fiends, doing all of this stuff that makes Vendetta want Charlotte dead. And this is definitely what the most interesting part of the show. Who is the real villain here? Vendetta or Charlotte? Sure, Charlotte is in parts of danger because of Vendetta, but that's only because she's angered Vendetta so much. Vendetta, there's even this one episode called Puppies, 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 which is basically where she tries to get rid of Charlotte from breaking into her house by cloning a bunch of guard dogs. But then Charlotte tames them, and then Charlotte makes clones of herself that are basically infinite. And that they fire Vendetta, or nearly fire Vendetta, out of a cannon. That is just shining a light on what Vendetta thinks of Charlotte. A dangerous psychopath that is overall an idiotic and ununderstanding person. I relate to Vendetta a whole lot, and I don't think that will ever change. Vendetta is a character that the reason why I think I relate to her so much and see so much of myself in her is because I have to deal with many people that frustrate me and stress me out day after day. And she has the gall to actually take care of it. No matter what, she will do something. Even if it doesn't work out. She will try everything in the book to try to get rid of Charlotte and stop her from breaking into her house. And I salute that. That ended up being a lot more personal than I was hoping for. But let's switch over to something I can really, really not say is personal to me. Nickelodeon itself. Nickelodeon started off as a very, very good show for kids' cartoons. And I'm very good channel for kids' cartoons. And they've made SpongeBob, the king of cartoons, or Rugrats, or many, many, many more that are so beloved. Reason I'm not that big of a Nickelodeon fan anymore is that they rely too much on SpongeBob for everything. They treat they treat their best franchises, despite SpongeBob, horribly. And Making Fiends only lasted 3 seasons, while SpongeBob is up to his 13th season already. I wish they would just put SpongeBob to bed, because his episodes will still get worse. I don't care that his musical was fantastic. I don't care that kids still find him funny. He needs to be put to rest to make more shows actually good and focused. Because that way, it will be better for Nickelodeon, because SpongeBob won't become a clown just for kids like he's becoming. And Making Fiends was a show that I think ended on the right time and in the right way. I really like the show, and sure, I'd be down to watch way more of it if it had another season, but I still think it's good to just not rely on a single franchise for the rest of your life. Just put it to bed, focus on the new thing. It will always work out, because if you don't like the new thing, then you can just drop it, start over. Now, comparing Making Fiends to SpongeBob is not something I would ever think of doing, because it's they're incredibly different. They are incredibly different shows with incredibly different vibes. While SpongeBob is fun and happy and creative, I'm not saying that Making Fiends is not creative. It's really creative. It's just it's bleak and dark, and having this comedy that is so different from from what we watch nowadays on Nick, which is something that I really appreciate. Who is the villain of Making Fiends? It's Charlotte. It's obviously Charlotte. I don't really think Vendetta is the problem. It is the actual problem for the characters of the show. A villain should both be a threat, but the villain should also be something that the characters have to learn against. Vendetta doesn't fit this criteria. Even though she is great, she's not a threat to Charlotte in any way. She's merely a threat to other characters in the show, while Charlotte is a massive threat to Vendetta and everyone around her. Oblivious to anything around her. She is impossible to control, and she can tame any fiend with a flick of the wrist. This is what makes Charlotte a good villain, but people say she's not a villain at all. And it's the most interesting part of the show to see Vendetta suffer over and over again, where you just want to hug her, even though that she'll probably kill you. You want hope for Vendetta, even though that she has all of this control over an entire town, neglectful parents, and a mastery of making monsters. I hope that this show gets more attention, and if it does, I hope more people will see how Vendetta suffers, because I need someone to suffer with me. Overall, this show, I say it's pretty good. The show is pretty great. I wouldn't say it's as good as original SpongeBob, but it's way better than modern SpongeBob. I would put it on the same level to... It's not as good as the Powerpuff Girls when it was original? Honestly, it's hard to say. Just like Making Fiends itself, my thoughts on it are weird. Are very, very weird. But I do hope that some people who listen to this will at least give the show a shot. It's free. The entire series is free on YouTube. It's archived there. Go to it. You won't regret it if you just at least give it a shot. Every episode is super short, and I definitely think it's worth your time. So this was the episode of Media Dump Theater. I'm glad that I get to do these because they're so much fun to do. Even if they're pretty stressful, I really, really like doing them. And this is a passion of mine to just share what blathers out of my mouth. And maybe if someone has a similar passion, they can do something like this, like so many have. All right, guys. Bye. I'll see you next episode. See ya.